We're taking back ownership over our own wellness and redefining what is useful. My name is Teresa Keto Dickerson, and I'm on a mission to change the conversation around the standard of acceptable. We're disrupting the way products are consumed and the ideas that we are in charge of our own wellness. Through connecting to community and professionals, we're clearing the path to live organically. This is an organic journey. I want to introduce today's guest. Graduated from London School of Economics, she worked in finance and technology until 2016, where she launched her first coaching program. Now she works with clients all over the world, teaching in simple sets to consistently get shit done, managing anxiety, and having fun along the way. She's currently the curator of her own amazing podcast, Fuck Anxiety and Get Shit Done. We're honored to have her on our show. Ladies and gentlemen, Vikki Lousie.
Thank you so much for having me. So honored to
Absolutely.
be here.
Absolutely. Thank you. Before we hop straight to the nitty gritty of anxiety, I see you recently got married. I want to say congratulations.
Thank
Like,
you.
how was that? Like, when was it? What was
So
the
it was,
date?
yeah, it was exactly a year ago. So it was our 1 year anniversary.
Oh, okay. Oh, you did have amazing pictures.
Yeah.
I liked you were like, I messed up all of our pictures smiling. And yeah, no, it was amazing.
It was like like the last one. There were a lot more like that of like,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Would you hate it when you're like, wait, do it again? So,
It's a good
so I
reason to ruin the photos,
right,
smiling too
yeah,
much.
exactly. Like that's like the best way to ruin your photos. So I wanted to ask you now that you're settling into being married and running your business. Um, so what is your favorite time of day? Like when do you get to just focus on, like self-actualization, just Vicky and
Yeah, such a good question. Because I didn't do this for a long time. I really like pushed my time to later in the day. And
mhm,
actually, in this past year, I've really set aside time in the morning. Now, every morning, I feel like you have to start your day with what, I used to wake up and like check my emails and check this and check that.
right,
And now it's like none of that. I wake up, I have a cup of water by my bed ready. So it's like
right,
easy.
yeah.
Um, do some stretching, either go for a walk or do some dancing in my bedroom. True story.
Hey,
um,
who doesn't love to dance?
yeah. And then, brush my teeth, have a shower, including like a cold shower, and then do my self coaching and like just really like start my day. Like that's my priority. And I think it's so easy for us to get caught up in like all the other things that we have to do and the replies and the responses, and what we're really teaching ourselves is that like we're not a priority. um
That's really good.
so that's a shift that's happened this past year that I'm really thankful for.
I like that. That is, I'm gonna have to start doing that. You're right. Like we just get started. We're just like, "Eve, what is this?" Like I like this morning. I like sat down. I started planning out my day. You're right. I should have just been like, and just breathe and just got myself together. It's a very good tip. So getting to like the core of like your specialty and like getting things done. Let's talk about some of the myths of anxiety. Like, what are some of the common myths and misconceptions?
Honestly, I think there's so much misinformation about anxiety. This is what I found in myself when I was having panic attacks, and like literally from government health websites, I've seen sentences like 1 in 5 American adults suffer from an anxiety disorder. And that whole sentence doesn't make sense because it's saying 20% of a population size of over 100 million people. So a
Right,
large sample size,
right,
20% have experienced anxiety to the level to a decent level. And that's not a disorder. That to me is like a trend. It's like, oh,
yeah,
this is obviously quite a common thing, so why does it exist? Versus I think so many people walk around thinking there's something wrong with me, versus like actually this can probably be explained by our evolution or by biology in some
hmm,
way, which is what I
right,
set about doing. So that's a big one. um Another one is really like how we define anxiety.
mm,
So when you look at, when I was at that point of having panic attacks and not knowing what was happening,
right.
I did a lot of Dr. Google, which we all
A
do, even though we
little
know we
dangerous, yeah.
shouldn't. Yeah. And another sentence said anxiety is a feeling of worry, unease, and overwhelm, something like that. And I read
Hmm.
it and I was like, that doesn't clarify anything. How is that the official description? Like, no,
Right.
like,
Right.
how do you know when you're worried or when you're anxious or when you're overwhelmed or when I mean, it's just like a feeling of feelings. There's nothing helpful
Right.
there.
Well, thank you. We're right back where I started.
Right. So now I'm more confused and now I'm more
Right.
convinced that there's something wrong with me.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Um,
uh,
so
okay.
what, yeah, so one of the things I do with my clients is like we define it for them because really for most people maybe it's like a pounding in the chest. For some people it's like a tingling down the arms
Hmm.
or a spinning in the head or a feeling of nausea. So for anyone listening that experiences anxiety, I recommend that you find and create your own definition so you know what's happening to you versus like I don't know what's happening because feeling worried and anxious and all of that stuff.
Right. Like super. Like just everything's crazy in my head. Yeah. That is one of those things that makes it really confusing when you're trying to figure out like why can't I just get like you said, like get done. Like why can't I just get started or whatever?
Yeah.
Because just like it's all this stuff. So like you have been known to talk about a couple different types of mindsets, right? Like so once a person defines what anxiety means, you talked about like the I can and the I can't mindset. Like can you break that down and tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So, when we come to new things, any new thing in life, we get to decide, our brain decides if we can do it or not, right? So, like,
Right.
and we really believe our brain. That's something that I think, unless we get into this world that we're in, the wellness world, we never really question our brain. So, our brain decides if we can or we can't do something, and we just believe it. Right, my
Right.
brain can decide that I can't speak French, and I'm like, I'm never going to take a French lesson. So it
Right.
becomes true.
Right.
Um, and on the flip side, my brain can decide that I can speak Spanish, and then I will pursue it and also make it true. And so often we're like always in one of those pockets. We're either thinking I can do this thing right in front of me or I
Mm,
can't. Even like creating a podcast, I'm sure there was. I mean, and
right.
same for me. There was plenty of time when I was like, I can't create a podcast until I was like,
Right.
oh, I can create a podcast.
I mean, why not? Right.
Right. But there's so many people believing that I can't mindset is like fixed and we have to believe it when our brain says we can't do something. And this shows up in people staying in careers that they don't really like, staying in
Hmm.
relationships where they aren't, feeling loved or loving the other person,
Hmm.
staying, not pursuing different goals and having a pipe dream of like, well, I would love to, I just, spoke earlier today to a makeup artist. Like I would love to have my makeup artist business go up, but I need to pay bills versus like maybe I can
Hmm.
launch and have a makeup artist business and pay my bills.
Right. So just like creating this space where there isn't a can. I'm just gonna do it. I mean, heck, at the end of the day, right? Like if you fail, you fail. Like what's the difference? Like rather than not getting started, right? Like so you yourself, like you sort of touched on it earlier, like you have a remarkable story too. Like so how did you get started going from, oh my gosh, just panic attacks every day to I'm getting myself in control. You know what? Let me help other people. Like,
Yeah. So I was actually already a life coach and
ah,
people had come to me asking for help with anxiety and I'd been like,
ah,
like what I'd heard about anxiety was like this extreme,
mhm.
terrible case. And I was like, I think you need, like, I don't think coaching is going to cut it for you. I think you need to go to a doctor. I literally
Uh-huh.
probably said that to 3 different people.
Oh wow.
Sorry, guys. Um, because of like the limited information that I knew
Mhm.
about it, and really our brain attracts itself to the most worst case scenario, right, of
Mhm.
everything. So my brain had seen the worst case scenario and thought that was anxiety.
Right.
Um, and then, I was coaching, and then fast forward a few months, and I started waking up with panic attacks. And I didn't
Mm.
even know what they were because I'd never spoken about them before, but I was just waking up with the shortness of breath, my heart pounding, dripping in
Mhm.
sweat, my brain feeling like there was like 10,000 thoughts a second whirling round, and
Right.
just being very alert. And I would just continue with my day. And this was happening every day. And my partner, now my husband, was like, I don't think it's normal, but you just like wake up like that and then
Right.
continue your day. And I spoke to a friend and she was like, it sounds like anxiety. And I was like, well, no, because everything that I've read about anxiety would mean that I can't function the rest of the day. So how is that possible?
Right. Right.
And this is when I got to work on it. And then I started I did all the research. I saw everything that I was supposed to be doing, and everything that was very disempowering and very like, I'm a victim of my anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I'm helpless and powerless to my anxiety. Poor me. This, I have to go to the doctor. It's not that there's anything wrong if people do. I think everyone
Right.
finds a solution that's right for you. But for me, I was like, what? Like, this isn't in line with what I'm still able to like get things done later. Anyway, so I started applying some of the life coaching tools, and then I
Mm.
started going into, like I said, some of our evolution and our biology and understanding like, why it exists and the case for it. And everything that I was reading, I was like inhaling
Right.
all this information. And I was like, people need to know this. Why,
Right.
why are we never taught this about our brains and our anxiety and how our brain's one job is to keep us alive, not to make us happy all the time. So it's going to
Right.
think about the worst case scenarios, and it's going to tell us not to do the scary things and sit in the I can't mindset.
Right.
um and obviously, and it got to the point where, as I said, I really defined anxiety and panic for me. So it was a completely different experience of, oh, I know what's going to happen and I know what to do about it, versus what the F is happening to me.
Right.
I don't know what to do, and spinning out, there's something wrong with me and there's something wrong with
Right.
me and I'm going to
Right.
die, to like, oh, I know I need to sit down, put my head between my legs.
Hmm.
If someone's there, I'll tell them to open a window. I need to breathe out. Like, it was just a completely different experience.
Yeah, that's one of those things that people are probably really struggling with. Like, so, why would you think that? Why do you think that the strategy you've come up with in handling anxiety, and I listened to one of your podcasts. You were talking about dissonance, and like, by the way, folks, be sure to check out her podcast. It's simply amazing. But like, what kind of steps do you recommend the beginner to master this? Like, what would you say? Okay, so now that you've identified, you've defined what that means for you, like, what are some of these steps?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first step is, really what happens is, when we have the anxiety, we're fighting it and resisting it and judging ourselves and
Mhm,
judging it. Really, if you can get to a place where you are just like sitting and experiencing it, and just like
mhm,
do a very simple body scan, even if it feels terrible, which it's kind of supposed to, because your brain
mhm,
thinks you're going to die and it's releasing these hormones.
right,
Like, just sit and go with like exactly what's happening, even if it's really unpleasant, which it probably is going to be. Like, identify, for you, is it in your head, is it in the front of
mhm,
your head, the back of your head, is it in your chest, in your shoulders, tingles up and down your arms, in your stomach, like in your feet or in your legs? Like, what specifically is it for you? What happens then is, like I said, like, the next time you feel it coming on, instead of thinking, oh no, I'm going to die, you're like, I know exactly what's going to happen. Now, that's like
mhm,
the first step, and we can get better and better at it. And the better and better we get at it, like, the shorter the panic attacks last,
mhm,
because there's no resistance to them. The whole other side of things is really going into like why we are having the anxiety or the panic to begin with.
mhm,
And this can come into like understanding our evolution and the biology, and why our brains function how they do.
mhm,
And it can also come down to like understanding where we were, what we were thinking, what environment we were in, all of these types of things, so we can understand and like be fearless with confronting it versus hiding away from it, and and falling back into the victim mode. And I think like what's really different about what I do versus a lot of things out there, and even a lot of other anxiety coaches,
mhm,
is um I really work hard to reframe what people make the anxiety mean about them, because at the
mhm,
end of the day, if you are experiencing anxiety and you are making it mean there's something wrong with you, you are creating more anxiety, right? So it's like, if you want to get rid of it by doing meditation and yoga, and then you are still saying you need to get rid of it because there's
right,
something wrong with you, instead of like completely being willing to confront it and sit with it and face it, and like still be the authority of your body and your brain and everything that's happening. um, so that's one of the big differences that I would say that I do with clients is, yes, for sure, we get rid of it, but we don't approach it like we need to get rid of this
right.
thing and there's something wrong with it. As we approach it like, oh, we know exactly what's happening and why it's happening, and it's unpleasant, but we're definitely
Right.
going to survive it.
That makes sense. Like, that's one of the sort of focuses of this podcast and my wellness program in general, is like taking ownership of your own like wellness. Like, like you said, just I'm gonna okay, this is what's happening, this is what I'm dealing with, and I'm just going to deal with it and keep it moving. Like, why
Right.
get yourself stuck in that place? Like, I like that. So since we're talking about um, managing anxiety as like a major approach to wellness, right? Like, let's dive into some of the functional steps, right? So um, someone can take to achieve their goals, like we're taking a no excuses mindset here on the organic journey. So let's talk about some of the pitfalls and like get those out of the way. Like, what are some specific roadblocks to watch out for, right? Like for the beginner out there.
Yeah, well, so here's the thing, right? The reason, like, it kind of touches on what we were just saying, but really explains it even further. When we think that anxiety means there's something wrong with us, we stop doing everything and focus on getting rid of the anxiety. I've had clients come to me and be like, I spent like 4 hours sweeping yesterday to try and get
Cool.
rid of the anxiety, or I
Right.
stopped what I was doing and meditated for 2 hours, or I just like, I'm not doing that project anymore because it's creating anxiety. And
Hmm.
we literally put all of our energy into getting rid of anxiety, which stops us pursuing our goals, our dreams, our businesses, um, even sometimes our relationships. Like, it really distracts our whole brain away from what we wanted to get done that day. And here's the thing, we can get things done while experiencing anxiety. It's not a
Hmm.
stop sign that our brain thinks it is. And if we're putting all of our energy into into getting rid of anxiety, we are going to fail because we're never going to get rid of it 100%. So we're like a lot of people come to me like exhausted. Like, I'm
Hmm.
trying everything. I'm really trying to like, like white knuckle and grin and bear and get things done. And like,
Hmm.
with the anxiety, I'm like, no, like, we need to like change the way that we're thinking about everything that's happening to you so you can approach it still feeling empowered, basically. Um, so really, some of the things might be like microtasking instead of,
Hmm.
instead of putting in our diary like 4 hours to, write my book. Like, how can
Right.
we like break it down to like, I'm going to outline the first 3 chapters and then have a break
Hmm.
and then the next 3 chapters. How can we build a reward system where we celebrate things that we are doing along the way instead of waiting for like only when we finish the book to
Right.
reward ourselves? Like, our brain is sometimes, I call it sometimes like a puppy brain. um and sometimes it's like it just wants like snacks, and it wants to go to the fridge 7 times, and it wants to check social
Right.
media, and it wants like all this stuff. And we kind of need to train it of like, yeah, we can go to the fridge and get a snack once we've done these two things.
Right. Yeah, like we're the mindset of self gratification anyway. So use it as like word that. I like that. That's really good. So you have a freebie on your site that where you talk about getting, everything you deserve to feel better. So you talk about like, being able to get some of the avoid some of those feelings and like just get straight to it. Like, and I recommend everybody go down there, VikkiLouise.com/guide. So we talked about some of the steps the beginner needs to like be successful implementing this. So what I want you to do is get into like advocating for, right? I want you to share with the listeners how they can reach out to you and partner in their wellness. Like, the goal of my show is really to network and to connect people with the professionals. So can you please share like some of your work? Like give me your elevator pitch. Like, what do you say?
Yeah, I love it. Typically I would say I help like ambitious overachievers manage their anxiety so they can produce some value in the world. I think every
Right.
person is uniquely positioned to see problems, and therefore they're the only ones that can create the solutions that the world needs. And we don't do it because we're giving into like our perfectionist tendencies, we're giving
Hmm.
into our people pleasing or our fear of failure or our worry of what other people will think of us. And I really work with people to overcome all of those things so that they can produce things that the world needs. Like, it's not just about us and what we're going to benefit by creating things in the life. It's really about like how we're going to shift the world on purpose, and even like helping if every person saw a problem and created a solution and helped 5 people,
Right.
um we would create a massive shift. And there's a saying, I think, that's like, most of the good ideas in the world are at the graveyard, and I'm like on a mission to
Mm,
change that.
yeah. I like that. That is, yeah, I've heard that saying, and you're just like there's so much talent. It's like sitting in like dead, right? Yeah, like so how do you normally like continue to learn about anxiety and doing things better and managing it? Like, how do you stay on top of your like the topics? Like, and how
Mm.
would you propose another beginner to go out and build that?
Listen, I didn't do this at the beginning of my career, and I wish I would have. I think it would have
Mm,
helped me grow a lot quicker, and I should have hired a coach before
mm,
I even like went through a certification process myself. I think being the client and having the experience of the growth and seeing how powerful the tools are is always going to be beneficial. And now, obviously, I have my own coach, so it's great.
right.
But I was like 2 years late, not late, but 2 years in
Yeah.
before I did it. And that's something anyone, I would say, wherever you are, whatever you are thinking of doing,
Mhm.
like invest in being the client first. I think it's really powerful.
Yeah.
Um, Now, I mean, I think now I'm kind of spoiled in that I work with clients all over the world and I learn a lot from them that allows me to help other people and produce podcasts that really help people and
Mhm.
Instagram stories and all that kind of thing. I'm in a mastermind and I love podcasts myself, obviously, and
Yeah.
a good book or audio book. And really things like this, like again, I think you're right, connecting and networking and meeting people and seeing the solutions they're creating and the ones
Mhm.
we're creating. And I think that, I mean, like my audience, for example, I have like a Facebook group, it's just started, but someone like there's a lot of things that I don't know about, different
Mm.
tools that I can't offer my people on anxiety. So if someone is like a yoga teacher and they have a specific routine that helps people, I don't think it's like a one size fits all or one
Yeah.
solution fits all. Like I think as individuals, what I'm loving about the world and where it's going is we have access to I mean, look at us, we're all over
Yeah.
the world, right? And
Yeah.
people can get access to all these resources and experts and really create their own combination of the solution, which is the most empowering thing. Like it's not empowering for me to tell someone they need to work with me and I'm the only one that can help them and
Right.
I'm going to
Right.
tell them what to do. So for them to figure it out is the best.
You mentioned an audiobook. What's your favorite audiobook? Like that's like a go-to that you, or what are you listening to now? Like that's helpful.
I'm listening to the Chimpanzee Paradox.
Ooh, that sounds good. I
Yeah.
have to look that up. I like that. Well, is there anything I should have asked that I didn't that you think listeners out there should know?
Oh, no, I think this is like a really good, nice introduction to some of like the
Mhm.
most important things. And I think I would just say to people, if you are confused and you are drowning in everything and you don't know where to start and everything that you've tried hasn't worked,
Mhm.
that's okay. I was also there. A lot of my clients to come to me from there. And just because something hasn't worked in the past doesn't mean the solution isn't out there for you. So keep trying. Obviously, you can should I tell them about my podcast and stuff? You
Oh
can,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So you can check out my podcast. It's called Fuck Anxiety and Get Shit Done, but spelt the polite way, F***.
Right.
Um, and or keep trying. There's so many resources out there. I know it's overwhelming, and I know if we haven't had something work out in the past, it can be it can be easy to feel defeated, but I promise you every problem has a solution. And when it comes to our brain and our anxiety, our procrastination, everyone's speaking about them because they're common, because it's
Mm.
science. Like there's nothing wrong with you. I always say like it's not you, it's your brain, and we are not our thoughts and all of that good stuff. So that's probably
Right.
what I'd leave people with.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Um, it's been a true pleasure. I know our listeners were able to totally get how to fuck anxiety and get shit done, right? Like at least the beginning steps. And again, I recommend you guys check out our podcast, like you said, fuck anxiety and get some shit done. And it's got like the asterisks or whatever. And then also go on her website, VikkiLousie.com, and get that guide. And so here at the Organic Journey, we're building like a thriving community that loves consuming content on wellness and natural and organic living. So this is your journey, and to find out more, on how to apply the techniques in your own journey to wellness, and reach out, connect to Vikki, like I mentioned, and check out her amazing blogs as well. So that's all the time that we have for today. So remember, you're changing the conversation on your own wellness. So live organically.